Africa Rising is a foundation that was set up by myself and my cousin Mandela in 2009. And the real idea and motivation came from us traveling around the world and realizing that people outside of Africa have very limited knowledge on Africa. And the knowledge that they know is usually around negative stereotypes. And we wanted to start something that can start engaging with the world and really showing a much more positive, much more balanced view of Africa. So we wanted to really showcase the positive side through media, film publications. And then through working on that, we realized that actually it was some of our own people who were perpetuating some of these negative stereotypes. So we realized that we actually needed to work with our own people, particularly the youth, in raising their pride and confidence as young Africans, essentially building a new generation of African leaders. So we felt the best way to achieve that would be through working in education, entrepreneurship development, and also celebrating our African culture. So we have now designed a program that is directed at high school, whereby we have service providers that come in and do workshops with the students, as well as the teachers and the student governing body. And we also have another service provider that really looks at cleaning up the physical environment and really making sure that the school is running effectively and efficiently. Well, I mean, it's the very typical thing, where Africa is poor, Africa needs help, Africa is a place of war, poverty, disease. Those are the real stereotypes, and we're not saying that these things don't exist. However, there's a lot more positive things happening on Africa. Want to showcase to people that Africa is a place where you can come for holiday, a place where you can do business, and really do a lot of positive things. Right now, as you know, Africa is looking to partner with people that can assist in our development. However, this development has to be led by the African people. I mean, in a lot of African countries, the education system is not always the best. So a lot of the time we get a lot of African youth, after finishing high school, or they always come to, universities in America, in Europe, etc. And, what usually happens is that they end up staying and becoming part of that society, and they forget about where they come from. So it's really just to communicate with those people and remind them that, they also have to contribute to the development that's taking place in Africa on the ground in one way or another. Different people. Right now I went to, I had a trip, a good sort of a European trip. I went to France, Paris, as well as Brussels, where I was able to engage with some of the community, journalists, people in the media, just really raising awareness. And it was very helpful that the mayor of both Paris as well as Brussels were really in support and gave us a platform to address their communities. We also look to other foundations and organizations which are more or less aligned to our mission and vision, and also looking to obviously corporate partners who can assist in raising funds for our programs. Well, it's a bit of both, because I have this heritage. When I do speak to people, they are much more willing to listen and give me the platform to speak. And obviously, once I do speak and I let them know what our mission is, I think it's something that they feel is genuine because of where I come from, and therefore I think they feel much more confident that we are really doing the right work and really aligning ourselves with the right people. So I think that's the kind of added effect that I have. So, and also looking at my grandfather and his position. So I think a lot of people really look to us to continue that fight that he started. I think my generation, we're still quite in touch. I mean, I'm turning 30 this year, so I think people around about the 26 plus generation, they're quite well aware of our history. But I think the disconnect will come in, the younger age, from about 21, 22 downwards. They really have a disconnect because they didn't really feel the effects of apartheid. But however, obviously, it is taught. It's part of the curriculum that they learn at school. So it's also our job that we have put up for ourselves to educate the youth and really get them engaged with our history. Because really, if you don't know where you come from, you will never find where you're going. So that is where we see ourselves. I think it was definitely worth it, and we've come a long way in these short 18 years of independence. If you look at the amount of people that now have houses, that have jobs, that are able to actually be involved in the education system, the economic system, it's still a small percentage, but it's growing every year. So there's still a lot of work to do as far as our economy is concerned, and getting the majority of our people involved and becoming active in the economic development. But I think the 18 years so far, what we have achieved has been quite monumental. Well, Africa is a large continent, made up of 53 countries. So I can definitely say that about South Africa. I can say that about places like Ghana and a few other places. I cannot say that about the entire continent because, it's a very diverse continent, and each country has its different levels of development and the stage that they've reached currently. So yes, in some countries it's worse than others. And that said, I don't think one should necessarily be paying too much attention to the negative aspects, because where there are problems, there are solutions. So we must not look at negativity purely in its isolated form, but in a way that will actually enable us to create real solutions using innovation and entrepreneurs. These are the people that are really important for our economic development. So as far as entrepreneurs is concerned, there's really a large gap for them to be able to do their business, work their ideas, and really get really good returns, obviously keeping in mind the dynamics at play, the risk, the political situation, etc. So I think if you have somebody on the ground who will be able to assist you and get you to move around, things will be much easier for you. Well, we have engaged with our own South African leaders. Our former president, Thabo Mbeki, is one of our honorary trustees. We have engaged with also an American figure, Mr. Jesse Jackson. And also because of the family and our background, we have a much easier way or access to some of these leaders. So people like Tito Mboweni, who was a former governor of the Reserve Bank. Not as much in the African context, but as we grow with our capacity as a foundation, we'll then be able to reach out to more leaders as we also roll out programs in those specific countries. These are things that have been happening for ages, but all of a sudden, because the Westerners have taken interest in that, it becomes a subject of discussion. But for us African people, it's just another day, I guess, of some of the issues and dynamics that we deal with. I mean, I think it's good that they're doing that work and they're passionate about raising the profile of Africa. I don't think it's only something that is only for Africans or only for Westerners to highlight. I think it's for everybody who feels connected in a way to Africa and wants to see Africa develop in a positive way. So, I think that's really good. But, however, the real people who will be able to really know what is needed on the ground on a day-to-day basis of what is needed in terms of education, infrastructure, different systems, those are the African people. So they can lead, awareness, and they can really assist when it comes to fundraising. However, when it comes to the actual programs and what needs to be done, that is going to be led by the African people. Well, I think we understand that, because of our name, we are a lot more under pressure than the average person to deliver and to be more accountable to the work that we have set out for ourselves. And we have also, put in some strict measures as far as fundraising is concerned. For example, for any program that we're raising money for, we will not accept more than 49% of that budget to come from the Western world. So we've made it very clear that a majority of the budget for any project that we're raising money for has to come from Africans themselves. As far as actually putting that outlined, I think our budget is really what guides us. And, it's something that can be accessed by anybody who is really interested in being involved. So they will be able to see for themselves where the money is going. And we will also have, obviously, your reports on a quarterly basis that really show those people who are involved, participated, donated, whether it was time or money, to show them that their money was going to the right place. Yes, our foundation is all about celebrating African culture, raising African pride and confidence. We're not particularly stuck on one country or one ethnic group. It's really about bringing education to all African people, those living in and outside of Africa. And for us, the xenophobic attacks that happened in South Africa 2 years ago was a real was a shame, was a real low point for South Africans. And xenophobia comes more from fear as opposed to feeling superior. I think that was the real question, and not understanding what is really the crux of the matter. And we need to realize as South Africans, as Africans, that our liberation movements would have not been won without the support of each other. ANC, ZANU-PF, and so on. If you look at Julius Nyerere and what he was able to achieve during this time, he had a country where all the liberation movements had camps in his country. So those are the examples that we want to really showcase and continue as Africans. I think first of all by coming together and being able to openly discuss certain issues. And once we're able to come together, across one common agenda, which is African development, I think everybody wants to develop, no matter where you are in the world, right? So if we come together and agree that we want to develop, then we can then take it a step further and say, what is our priority in terms of this development? Do we start with education? Do we start with telecommunication, or do we start with education? And then once we have set our priorities, we can then start doing our work and getting our hands dirty. So I definitely believe that there's a scope for unity and a real chance of achieving unity. Obviously, it then goes back to the question of leadership. Good leadership, accountable leadership, and that is the one problem that we are currently facing, not in Africa, but the whole world. And that is also another area of the Africa Rising Foundation that we want to really seek. And that's why we feel it's very important for us to work with the youth in making sure that their mind is really conditioned in such a way that they want to see Africa being represented in the best positive light that is possible. I think um, I think there's a large scope for people to do business. Personally, I really am not one who's keen on business that's related to natural resources. I tend to shy away from such businesses, but there's lots of people who are very much involved in that. But you talk about development of infrastructure. That's really one of the top agendas for our development. When you talk about education and healthcare systems, that's another priority for us. When you talk about financial services and the banking system, which many of our countries don't have, that's another priority on the agenda. So when you're looking at those that I've mentioned, those are real places that you can really engage. And of course, on the entrepreneurship level, really getting small, medium-sized companies, because that will really assist in the people on the ground who are really dealing with day-to-day poverty to be employed and to get themselves involved. In the next 5 years, would like to be one of the leading voices when it comes to shaping the environment and the climate of African development. Would like to be at the forefront of developmental issues and really be the platform where youth is able to engage with leaders in the parliamentary, presidential sort of level. So being that intermediary and being a powerful voice on the continent. And we are going to be continuing raising money for our flagship program this year, which is the education program directed at high school. So with each year, right now we are speaking to the ambassador who was in Brussels from the Congo. We're also speaking to the First Lady from Gabon. Those are the two parties right now that we're engaged with who are really interested in having some of our programs being outlined out in those countries. So yeah, as I said, capacity grows, we'll then be able to set up shop in the different countries and realize our African dream.
Well, viewers, it's been Ndaba Mandela, who's visiting New York today to talk about Africa Rising Foundation. We want to thank you so much for stopping by our studios in New York City on Sahara TV. And we hope that you come back again.
We definitely will. Thank you very much.
Thank you.